Hello, this is Clint from Clint's Permaculture Garden. I want to show you how I train trees. If you want to go out and do a spalier and have all these stakes and stuff like that, you can, but you really do need to train your trees, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to do. This is a key for pear. That's a key for pear right there too. And if you leave these trees alone, they grow straight up. And I've already taken the pears off this. This is a 2-year-old tree. That's what happens when you put them in good dirt. And the only reason this one's bending down because the pear's on there. But see, I'm not going to really mess with that. I'm going to reinforce that here in a second. But that's the shape that I want for a couple of reasons. One, I can control the tree, which limbs I want. I can control its height without having to whack it all the time. And when I'm looking at a tree like this, I want to spread these out. I want to get these at level or below level. So for the nursery part of mine, all these where you see leaves this year, I can graft to next winter if I want to, because there'll be a solid row of grafted material here. And the tree will, believe it or not, fruit better if the limbs are like this. Instead of trying to put all that growth up, it knows it can't do that, so it puts it this way. And you'll see I've got these spread out. I've got this. Now, one thing you want to really look at, what you don't want to do is put stress where the limbs are hooking to the tree. If you do that and you really horse these down, you're going to have broke limbs, and that's not what you want. You're just wanting to train these limbs. Now this one, because the pear's been there all summer, it's already in this shape. But I'm going to stick that on there. The next, probably about June, I'll take these wires off, and it'll be trained that way. But I want to show you what you don't do. Okay, this, on this particular limb, the way this is grown up, there's no way I can trim this, and it does very well, because if I start bending that back, it's going to put pressure right here where the limb meets the trunk, and that's bad. So you don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is either leave this one alone, or I'll cut it and then let this one grow up, then I can train this one down the road. And I'm going to show you a pear tree that I've done this to, and I don't do a lot with, I'm not pear, but plum. I'm just kind of opening this up. I'm going to come in the winter and trim it and everything, but I'm just barely opening this up. You don't have to do this as much on the plums as you do the pear and the apple. Now here is a 2-year-old apple tree that I'm pruning. See, there's not a lot of stress, and there's no stress on these joints the way that I'm doing this, but I'm just kind of flattening this out. But this particular one here, there's no way that I can train this without putting stress right there on that joint. So I'm not going to try to bend this any particular direction. Plus, it's being on the inside of a row, I may just let this grow up and keep whacking it. I want these short. This is for me and my wife. I'm not trying to get 30-foot trees. I want to have a lot of open space with a little bit of canopy shade in here. So I don't want really big trees in here, but just in this little section right here, we've got 5 fruit trees, and I can put another one on the corner because I'm keeping them small. So what this means, if me and my wife come out here, I'd much rather have and this isn't really a food forest per se, but say forest garden. I'd rather come out here and have 30 different species of fruit trees where I only may get 1/3 of a bushel off each tree, but it's just me and my wife. These are not for commercial production of any kind like that. I'm not trying to bring people in here to pick them. I could sell excess fruit at a market or something like that, but that's not really the goal. The goal is once stuff starts coming in and maturing, I've got fresh fruit all the time, and I can do that more with diversity. These 2 are Honeycrisp apples. They're going to do good. We've got a plum right here. I've got the 2 keepers, and then when we come over here, I've got a different apple tree right here, and then I've got 2 more plums right here. That's a lot of fruit trees in a little bitty area. And then of course we've got asparagus and all kind of stuff. But if you're looking at trees, think about how to train them to do what you want to do from the nursery aspect. Remember, I'm going to have grafted material all over this. If I keep cutting this off at the bottom, this will get loaded with fruit. Now the first year that you do this, so next year, say I get 4 apples on this branch right here, the branch is going to be a little bit bigger. I'm still going to strip those off and just allow maybe 2. because when you bend that over, if you get too much weight out here, it's going to break the limb. So for the first couple of years, it's going to be up to you to monitor how much fruit you allow to be on these trees. And with these growing up, I'm going to have spurs that's going to come up, and I can control the height of this tree by me repeatedly doing this over and over again. I may keep this apple tree, which is on semi-dwarf rootstock, this height. So in 20 years, it may have a base this big coming out, but it's still only going to be this tall. It's perfectly fine to do that. You just got to keep up on your pruning. But training these trees is a lot easier than pruning these trees. Because when I bend this over, the only pruning I'm going to really have to do is I'm going to keep whacking it off on the end, and then I'm going to take my grafting material off, and I'm not having to just keep, if I just let it grow naturally, I'm always going to have to do this. Now this is very different than if I was doing large scale agriculture where I had 300 apple trees out there. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to have small fruit. Now if you have that many apple trees, you're not going to go through there and train them all this way. But in my yard, I've got close to 70 fruit trees, and I want to keep them all where they're manageable and where I can still do stuff in between them by putting different layers for the permaculture. But it's nothing but wire wrapped around going down to the tree. Just make sure you don't stress joints when you do this, and you can continuously do this, and eventually this will become a really big tree, but just not really tall, and it'll produce just as much fruit. And it's kind of a quick and easy way to do espalier without having to build a fence. It's just not as pretty or as neat, but it does the same thing and it's just as effective. Now this is on the far edge of my actual food forest, and you can see how I've trained these other trees. This Bradford pear is got a little too high for me. I'm going to keep it about 8 feet, but there's another limb that's been trained straight out, another limb, and it may seem like that it's too weak when you do that, but this limb, and this is only about a 4-year tree, is probably an inch to inch and a quarter in diameter already. And I'll trim those top up for propagation, and I just keep cutting it off on the end so it doesn't get in the pathway, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and stronger and stronger and stronger. But that's what it looks like down the road. Just let it come out to the end and stop it.